Good evening, all. Today, I, Gautam Maji, Assistant Professor as well as head of the Department of English at the Mohammed Dulai, back with another session. This is session number 26. And as you know that there are several great academicians, they have already come on our digital platform and deliver their insightful lectures. Today also, we have got another great academician amongst us. And she is from Raigad University. She is Dr. Sanjukta Chatterjee, who is an assistant professor of English of Raigad University. So I would like to welcome our honorable ma'am on our digital platform. Ma'am,
Hello.
welcome, welcome on our digital platform. And it was such a wonderful person. I'm really very happy for that to get your valuable time on our digital platform. The first time when I just asked you to join and you said yes. So this kind of approach really motivates us and encourages us, the budding people like us. So thank you very much. And before we begin our session, I would like to hear some few words about the venture that you know, because I have discussed with you the venture that we have been conducting since July. So if you have a few words from you, then we'll be happy for that.
Okay, hello.
Yes,
Am
ma'am.
I
Could you?
audible?
Yes, you're audible.
You want me? Yeah, but there are some technical problems on my end, I feel. So, do you want me to speak something about the lecture series that
About the
you're
venture
hosting?
that we have been conducting. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, that is something, I think that is very different, and it is very important to be different. That is the point we should take up in life. When we think of things, and when we think of things in a different manner, it really clicks somewhere. So I think it will register in the academic in the premise that we have in all over the world, not only in India. And I really hope and I pray and all my good wishes to you so that you keep on hosting such lecture series so that it benefits not only the students but also academicians like us, because we are held at home and we are not able to go to the classes to deliver lectures. Only online lectures are going on. But then these kind of ventures on your part are really very helpful because they help us and they help the students at the same time, which is in the webinars normally people come and we lecture and we don't get to see the feedback. Sometimes it happens like that, the feedback forms really don't reach us back. But here on Facebook I'll be able to read the comments, and I'll be able to improve myself, and the students will also be able to improve themselves along with me.
Thank you very much,
So
ma'am.
keep on.
But thank you very much, ma'am, for your wonderful words. But before ma'am begins delivering her lectures, I'd like to share with all of you our academic career. Dr. Sanjukta Chatterjee teaches at the Department of English, Raigad University. Her areas of interest are Indian feminism, cultural studies, and eco-criticism, and she has spoken and written on these areas. She is in the charge Center for Women's Studies, Raigad University. She has hosted workshops on sexual harassment at Workplace Act and organized Meet the Doctor program for feminine health awareness. She has delivered talks in various educational institutions about the need for gender sensitization and awareness. An active social worker, she is at present working on COVID psychology and suicide prevention, as well as she has presented several papers on different national and international platforms, and she has written several books also, and that will be informed to you later. So we are really lucky and fortunate to have a great academician like her on our digital platform. So, ma'am, are you ready? Then the session will be handed over to you.
Yes, thank you, Gautam. I am ready.
Okay, the session is handed over to you, ma'am. Now the proceed, ma'am.
Hello, good evening, listeners and viewers, of course, because this is an audiovisual platform and I'm still learning. Since March, we've been in lockdown. And when we are in lockdown or locked down, we know how difficult it becomes, how sad it becomes, and how frustrating it becomes. And so I'm still fiddling with the tab. Now, um, Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass have fascinated readers and watchers who have watched them on television or as films. But what I have really liked about these two books, Forever and Ever, is their capacity to engulf me, their capacity to make me forget things, and their capacity to rewrite every existing mode of thought, be it science, be it history, be it language, be it gender, be it any other kind of premise that we can think of, because it is a land of subversion, more so with Through the Looking Glass than with Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland is the starting stone or stepping stone, the first step from where we take off, and Through the Looking Glass is the journey that really completes it in the best possible manner. Now, Charles Dodson, uh, my network is not very good. I'm sorry about that. So if there are glitches, kindly forgive me. Charles Lutwidge Dodson, he's known as Louis Carroll, and his dates are 1832 to 1898. Now, he was a mathematician and a photographer and an inventor and a lot more. Carroll he started off as a as a scientist, if I may say, but he actually chose this name Alice because it's important to know the genesis of this name. Try to find out what Alice is, because in Through the Looking Glass, Humpty Dumpty asks Alice, "What is the meaning of your name?" And she is not able to answer correctly. But of course, correct answers simply don't exist out there, it seems. So Alice Liddell was the daughter of the Dean of Christ Church of Oxford, where Carroll used to visit. And Carroll usually denied this, and there were charges that maybe he was more erotically interested in children or something like that. But whatever be the story behind it, Alice is a very interesting name and also a very simple name. And I always thought that it begins with the first letter of the alphabet. So somehow it relates to the beginning of things, or somehow it relates to the place where you just start. There are some definitely meanings, lexical meanings, but we are not here to search for meanings, rather to avoid meanings, or maybe kind of go around the meanings as Carol wants us to do. So Carol himself was not really a social person. He was not really a mixer, and he was a friend of Dante Gabriel Rossetti. So he had the pre-Raphaelite connection there, and he wrote Alice in Wonderland in 1865 and Through the Looking Glass in 1871. The entire title of Through the Looking Glass is Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There. So Carroll was trying his hand at nonsense literature, but he was not really the first one to do it. We have Edward Lear doing it before, but this is a genre that comes in to its prominence in the 19th century, and the play with meanings starts from there. So I have come across lots of readings on Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass that go into the psychoanalytic part of it, and how they try to unveil the dreams that the dreams. Both the novels are basically daydreams or reveries. So how the reveries are experienced by the child, but there can be a lot more readings to it. There can be ecological reading. There can be a war a text. I somehow find that this novel can be read as a war text, and a lot more, because the Lucian Guattari is taking this up and saying that, look, this is minor literature. This is the literature that can be thought of so much. So these kind of literature with potentialities, these are nonsense literature. In my mother tongue, Bangla, we have Shukumar Rai and his Abul Tabul. And in Abul Tabul, he goes on, with Abul Tabul, if you translate it, means nonsense, means something that doesn't have, a particular sense. Now, this entire play of senses and nonsenses, this is what the journey of Carol is all about. And Carol is actually taking up this idea of, nonsense literature to the fullest, and he is exploring it. He's playing with all the components, if I may say, of nonsense literature that we expect it to have. And he actually writes this novel, but he has poems in it. Those poems mean those poems are like, they defy and deny the boundaries of linguistic constructions and logical reasoning altogether. So nonsense is not something that doesn't have meaning, but it is something that is like overloaded with meaning, or overstuffed with meaning, or it's open, something that can be interpreted as we think. So almost like a child speaking. When a child speaks, we interpret that this child wants this, but the child has not yet been initiated into language. So may I say that nonsense literature is something that is kind of prelingual, if I may say. And the words and sentences that come, that are placed in such a manner that humor comes out of it, and this gives a very light feeling to it, unless and until people like us try to dig meanings into it and try to make it very heavy. But otherwise, they make for very light reading. I remember that the first time I came across these two texts, I was in the sixth standard or fifth standard, or maybe even earlier. But I never thought one day I'll be sitting here and lecturing on these books, because to me, White Rabbit and Mad Hatter and Caterpillar were my friends. I'm talking, as I go about, I would constantly refer to Alice in Wonderland, because I feel that these two texts are so connected, and of course they are connected. This is a sequel. So when Edward Lear wrote his book of nonsense in 1846, it was something that was remarkably taken up, and Carroll took up nonsense literature, even better than him somehow, I feel. And Carroll uses such a lot of techniques. Now, in any text, any novel or any poem can have elements of nonsense literature in it, but unless and until it contains a majority of elements of nonsense literature in it, it cannot really be classified as nonsense literature. But you can classify it as a normal text with some elements of nonsense literature or literary nonsense into it. So nonsense actually demands a lot of subtlety of use of language. And excuse me for this glitch again. Okay. So what are the techniques of nonsense literature, if I may say? So various techniques are employed to construct literary nonsense, and these techniques are all present in both the novels that are on our thing. But through the looking glass, see, through the looking glass. Now, primarily, every child or every human wonders at the image that comes on the other side of the looking glass. Now, the Lacanian mirror stage is read into this, definitely so. And what is beyond the looking glass? I have seen, pets and little children go around the mirror and look behind the mirror. So, what is behind the mirror? So, this idea of the right hand appearing as the left hand, this subversion of the right and the wrong, of the right and the left, the dualism, the two person, me as a person and me as an image, they come face to face. This interaction that takes place. This, what if I became the other? What if I could touch the other? I could feel the other. I could go through the glass and become the other. So this entire process of becoming, again, the opening up of possibilities, the opening up of opportunities, the opening up of various fields of thought. All these begins with nonsense literature, because nonsense literature does not follow any set pattern uh, of the canons. So it is very, if I may say, very anti canonical. It has, of course, anything that is anti canonical in time becomes a canon, but it begins as it starts off as a very very a different kind of journey when we try to unravel the meanings of particular words there, and how the meanings constantly evade us. The signifier and the signified, they do not really converge. Rather, they are more removed from each other. The more we try to go to the meaning of things, they try to evade us. So as we know, the other technique, that very important technique that I have found out, is the, the use of inversions. So the inverted way the things have been done in this is not only physical, but also linguistic. The way they speak, the way they behave, everything is very unusual. So who are the primary characters of Through the Looking Glass? Well, in Through the Looking Glass, we have got the White Queen and the White King, and it's based on the game of chess, which is again a mathematical grid, if I may say. So Carroll was a mathematician, and he was much interested in these mathematical, in numbers, in all kind of mathematical analogies. But he is actually turning them on their head. He is trying to use a peculiar kind of logic, a logic that does not work on rationality, a logic that exists for itself, just as verbs are said to exist for themselves, and adjectives have got, they have got their own behavior, as as we find out through the course of the text. So when we do the, when we go through this text of Through the Looking Glass, we come to see, we come to meet a lot of characters who are very different from their versions in real life. So the idea of real and the unreal, the true and the untrue, the or the post-true, and the idea of me and you, and the idea of we. All these things are rewritten throughout through the Looking Glass. So there are actually 12 chapters in Through the Looking Glass, and it begins with the chapter with Looking Glass House. And this chapter actually, at the very beginning, kind of set me thinking that this particular novel actually has a lot of potential for an ecological reading, because if you read it ecological, if you read it as an eco-critic would try to read it, then we definitely find the idea of being with nature, because we don't really see, in Alice in Wonderland we have houses, and we have Alice coming out through the roof of the house, or has to be taken out through the roof has to be, the wall has to be taken out, she's grown so big, and there are halls, and there are these kind of structures. But when we come to this particular part, that is Through the Looking Glass, we find that the action mostly takes place in the fields, in the jungle, in the forest, and we see that the use of grass, the use of open spaces, the use of gardens, uh, of what should I say, of water, and of the animals. The animals are, they're real and mythical at the same time. You have got the lion and the unicorn side by side. So in Through the Looking Glass, things are very different from Alice in Wonderland in a way. So in fact, at the in the second chapter, chapter two. Uh, okay, let me first go to the first chapter, and I'll just read a portion for you where it would read like a very very serious, very very meaningful ecological novel, where Alice is actually speaking of the seasons. Alice is speaking with the cats. So the idea of the lonely child, the idea of the child who has kittens for playmates and who confides in the kittens and believes that the kittens really listen to her. She is sharing her thoughts, and I quote, "Do you hear the snow against the window panes, Kitty? How nice and soft it sounds, just as if someone was kissing the window all over outside. I wonder if the snow loves the trees and fields, that it kisses them so gently. And then it covers them up snug, with a white quilt. And perhaps it says, 'Go to sleep, darlings, till the summer comes again.' And when they wake up in the summer, Kitty, they dress themselves all in green and dance about whenever the wind blows. Oh, that's very pretty," cried Alice, dropping the ball of worsted to clap her hands. "And I do so wish it was true. I'm sure the woods would look sleepy in the autumn when the leaves are getting brown." So these kind of passages are there, not exactly in this seriousness, but in her preference for meeting the speaking tiger lily, or in meeting the daisy, the garden where flowers are speaking to her, where we will read that part again when we go to that. And these kind of spaces are there. And whenever she has to whenever she has to change, or she has to travel to the next block of the chess, next square of the chess board, where she is actually playing the role of a pawn. She wants to be the queen. So there's a journey from you know the beginning to the point where she becomes the queen, to the end of it. There she has to cross a brook every time. So this idea of water, that is there. And in one of the chapters, she actually is on a boat that is, in a stream. She's flowing in the water, and this idea of she collecting the scented rushes from the water, from the side of the water. That sensual image of the bright scented rushes, that is very important, because in Alice in Wonderland, I did not find the idea of the sense of smell there. It was all, touch and, taste, but not smell, I think, as far as I remember. So here we have the sense of smell too. So the sensual imagery that is created there, where she is actually, she wants to touch the objects in that departmental store, but the objects just flow away. So that also is a kind of lack that we are talking about out here, and how she is not able to get the things that she wants, and how desire and the objective, achieving the objective, these two things do not come together, even though she is actually, in a kind of a daydream. So what has really been of interest to me, especially, is this idea of the objects, going beyond your reach. So when she tries to reach out, it goes beyond her reach. It just goes, through the ceiling, and she's not able to grab them. So that is there. That kind of sadness is there, but she finds the happiness when she is there in touch with the various natural objects. And then she goes and she meets all kind of people in the throughout her journey in through the looking glass. And this kind of you know this kind of setting of natural and very very simple kind of settings that we have, where we do not have structures, as I said. Rather, there is a very interesting concept where the roads actually travel, and houses come and obstruct the path. So how actually he is trying to very subtly say that nature is to be left alone if possible, so that the pathways are there, but the houses come and they stop her from getting to the top of the hill, where she can actually work towards achieving her objective. Uh, Apart from that, there are a lot of themes in this one. Particularly, the entire story is based on the game of chess and how the various characters are actually. She meets them in each square of the chess, and in each square, she has a new experience, and then she ultimately becomes the queen. Now, the characters in Through the Looking Glass, we have the Red Queen and the White Queen, and the way they behave with each other, and we see that the Red Queen is simply not happy with whatever she has in front of her, and she's very dominating, the Red Queen. And in chapter, I think chapter 3, is it? No, chapter 2, yes, where we meet that the garden of live flowers, there in the garden she is chided by flowers, and then she is kind of chided by the queen, because the queen tells her, that when she appreciates the garden, the queen says that I've seen something better than that. So they are very much like certain real life characters who try to dissuade people and who try to kind of make people feel very different. So these are lived experiences that find their way in Carol's writing, and these are the things that are not really subverted. That's what I feel. They are very understated, but they are there. The presence of violence is there. The presence of jealousy is there. These kind of presences are, it's replete with these presences. These kind of a lot of there are a lot of very covert, may I say, references to adult emotions like pride, like anger. That I have this kind of feeling when I read this, that Carol was trying to create in the character of Alice, or the persons that she meets, the world that, even though you want it to be better than the world that you live in, but actually it is just the mirror opposite of it. So not really a lot of not really a lot varied. Now, a very important part of nonsense literature is language, and language is obviously being played with throughout. So you have got neologisms, and you have got inversions of syntax and speech. You have repetitions, and repetitions, multiple repetitions. You have, then you definitely have a very interesting concept of tautology. We have a lot of tautology there in Tweedledum and Tweedledee, that chapter, and imprecision, because when meanings don't really arrive, and of course the use of portmanteau words. So these are the way the languages of these novels are constructed. So as we go through each of them, we'll be able to understand. But before we go through any of them, we must focus on a very little thing. That is the idea of Alice playing a game called Let's Pretend. So whenever Alice wants to play a game, she has a sister, and she wants to play the game with her sister, and she tells her sister that let's pretend. So her sister says that she had, I'm quoting from the text, she had quite a long argument with her sister only the day before, all because Alice had begun with let's pretend we are kings and queens. And her sister, who liked being very exact, I underline, her sister who liked being very exact, because we do not believe in being very exact. Okay, so if we would be exact, we would not be nonsensical. Okay, so had argued that they couldn't, because there were only two of them, and Alice had been reduced at last to say, well, you can be one of them then, and I'll be all the rest. So you see the way we find Carol playing up with this idea of multiple personalities that Alice kind of pretends to be. And maybe she, the lot of characters that exist in her head and who come to her, as images, and maybe as hallucinations, or maybe as, as visions that come to her when she is by herself. And these images, they all take up the attributes of real life characters, maybe the characters that she has met. But I'm not doing an autobiographical reading out here. I would not like to, pinpoint at the particular characters that she must have met in real life, who would have actually brought about these images in her mind. But what I would like to say is how this concept of, I'll be all the rest. So she is herself. Who is she? This question is there throughout the novel, and throughout, when she is trying to, find out who she is. In fact, in one particular chapter, the White Knight tells her that she should not wake up the king because the king is dreaming, and she asks that what is he dreaming of. The White Knight says he is, and what is he dreaming of? And he is dreaming of about you. So if he wakes up, then you are gone. So Alice wonders that what is she? Is she only a dream? Is she only doesn't she exist as a complete human being? Is she only an image and not a real character? So these contradictions go on in her mind, and she is 7 years 6 months to be exact, and she is so at the stage when she should be more, she should be more, she should be more dedicated to her studies, perhaps, because she constantly tries telling people that I know poems, I know poetry, I know this, I know that, but she's never able to arrive at things. Certain ideas always elude her. She is not able to exactly land upon things. When she's asked certain things, when she's cross-examined by people, she's unable to live up to their expectations. But of course, the questions are weird because the setting is weird, and because it is a nonsensical literature platform that we have here. So no one takes, no, even though she's chided by a lot of people from the beginning to the end, yet her character never really, feels so sad that she cries. She had cried in Alice in Wonderland, and she had almost drowned in her tears, but that doesn't really happen here. uh, what is very interesting here, as I was speaking of language, is the use of language in the various poems that intersperse the entire narrative. So we have a poem called Jabberwocky, and if I may kind of, I'll just hold up my tab that I'm reading out here to the screen so that you see uh, the way Carroll was playing with the idea of structuring the entire thing. He has written it in the original like this. I don't know if it's visible in the screen. Yes, now it's there. So Jabberwocky, it was like this: Jabberwocky, and this is a mirror image that is supposed to, that is what exactly we see when we hold up a text to the mirror. So how real is this unreal? So this bordering between the real and the imaginative, this idea of the world and language being its representation that Delusion Guattari is taking up, that thing is completely used out here. How the border lines are always erased and done away with, and this play, she was puzzled over, I'm quoting from that particular sentence, that particular chapter, she puzzled over this for some time, but at last a bright thought struck her. Why, it's a looking glass book, of course, and if I hold it up to a glass, the words will all go the right way again. So she has been taught of the right way and the wrong way. So she reads this particular poem, and I will also read it out to you, because I want people who have not really gone through the original text to realize to what extent Carol was playing with language. "'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did jar and gimble in the valley. All mimsy were the borough groves, and the mome rods outgraby. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the jujube bird, and shun the frumious bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand. Long time the Mangzong for he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whittling through the tulgey wood and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the vorpal blade went sneak a snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galloping back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O frabjous day, Kalu Kalay, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy tops did gyre and gimble in the wavy. All mimsy were the borough groves, and the moon rods outdrape. I might have pronounced certain words in a wrong manner, but is there really a wrong manner? Because do these words really mean anything? But then, if we ask about the semantical, semantical question about these words, then we will be lost because meaning will never be arrived at in any kind of nonsensical literature. Meaning will constantly move away the closer we move. However, there is a tale behind this that a monster called Jabberwock, and who's got claws, who's got jaws that bite and claws that catch. And there's another monster, the Jub Jub bird, and also the Bandersnatch. So there are three monsters in this particular poem. And how in this particular poem we come to see that the son actually slays the monster, and then uh, you know the father is very happy. The father says, "Come to my arms, my beamish boy, O frabjous day, Kalukale." So these words are all neologisms, and these words are, nonsense words created by him. And we keep wondering, what do they mean? "'Twas brillig and the sleety toves." So this is not. Alice says this is rather hard to understand. It seems very pretty. Now, this is what exactly I was saying, that when we understand things, but we are not really able to understand them because we try to find out meanings with the idea that they are representations of things that we already know, things that we already feel. But unfortunately, we are lost at this, and then when we come to the a linguistic part of it. So the entire thing is inexact. They're vague. They don't the words don't come right down to us in any way possible. So this poem is explained right at the end of it. I'll just go there. Humpty Dumpty explains the poem to Alice, and Humpty Dumpty seems to know everything about language. So when she meets Humpty Dumpty, she meets Humpty Dumpty in chapter 6, and she tells Humpty Dumpty that Humpty Dumpty tells her that do you know any poem? And she says, okay, I came across this poem, and you got to explain. You can explain it to me. You seem Alice said that you seem very clever at explaining words, sir. Would you kindly explain to me the meaning of the poem called Jabberwocky? And Humpty Dumpty says, let's hear it. And the poem is said, and then suddenly Humpty Dumpty says, that's enough to begin with. There are plenty of hard words there. Brillig means 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the time when you start broiling things for dinner. So I think that if we pronounce words of English as we know it, and we do not pronounce it clear enough, then these kind of sounds come out. And this is phonetic subversion. This is phonetic inversion as well. And we do not really speak to make others understand, but we speak because we speak. When speech exists just for itself, when words exist just for themselves, but they have a meaning, and even that meaning exists only for itself. So when Humpty Dumpty says that brillig means 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Alice wonders because she has never known that any particular time of the day can have a name. So time of the day, time is something that Carol plays upon so wonderfully throughout. But I'll come back to that idea of time a bit later. I'll just focus on how Humpty Dumpty explains Jabberwocky. because the explanation is even more confusing. It is not really, it doesn't help you to arrive at the meaning, but takes you away from it and to other sides. You seem to know, yes, you broil things at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but how does broiling things relic? You know, somehow a portmanteau is created, not a portmanteau, I would say. This kind of a word is created for the sake of, uh, uh, you know, for the sake of nonsense, to give that image of nonsense. That will do very well. And what is slithy? Alice asked. Slithy means lithe and slimy. Lithe is the same as active. You see, it's like a portmanteau. There are two meanings packed up into one word. So Humpty Dumpty is very knowledgeable, and he teaches Alice and says, what are tubs? Tubs are something like badgers, something like lizards, and they're something like corkscrews. So in one particular sentence, you have three comparisons or three representations that we find in the real world. Okay, we find badgers, we find lizards, and we find corkscrews. Of course, nothing seems similar, so it's very difficult to find out what are tops. But Alice says they must be very curious looking creatures. So Alice has been through so many experiences in through the looking glass, because she has been asking questions, and she seems to know nothing about this particular world, and she is constantly uh, reminded that she doesn't know things around here. They are that, and also they make their nests under sundials. Also, they live on cheese. So doves, kind of remind us of doves, but doves make their nests. So maybe they're God knows what, they're like lizards, and they're like corkscrews and all, and they build their nests under sundials, and they live on cheese. Now, food is again very important. So we'll arrive at that. But before that, was the gyre and works to Jimble, and he goes on explaining Webby. I find one word very interesting out here, Webby. So what is Webby or web? Of course it is. Web is the grass plot around the sundial, I suppose, said Alice, surprised at her own ingenuity. Of course it is. It's called Webby, because it goes a long way before it and a long way behind it. So, and a long way beyond it on each side. Exactly so. Well then, Mimsy is flimsy and miserable, and a Borogrove is a thin, shabby-looking bird with its feathers sticking out on all round, something like a live mop. Uh, it goes on, and then he explains the meanings of mom rats and outgraving and everything possible. But when Humpty Dumpty recites a poem, that is a perfectly normal poem with an abnormal meaning to it. Okay. However, this interplay of words and their meanings, and counter meanings, and meanings that do not really mean, and words that do not really exist, this goes on. This play continuously goes on and on. Another thing that I was talking about is the idea of time. So it's very interestingly, Luckerol plays with the idea of time in such a way that time seems to be, it's not linear. Rather, it flows backwards. So the chapter in which Alice meets the White Queen actually starts shouting because she is going to have a cut later next week, and she is shouting right now. She's screaming right now because she will definitely have a cut. Somebody who has not yet committed a crime is to be tried today. So what if he doesn't commit the crime? All the better. So these kind of logical reasoning that are so perfectly illogical, these are these are spread out throughout the text at every place possible, and these add to the nonsensical nonsensical matrix of the particular particular text that we have here. The idea of time also takes on, another direction where we have, time in a cyclical way where she goes around the path and she comes back to the same spot every time. Then she wakes up. So time has, has been standing still because she starts dreaming from a particular spot and she wakes up again. So she has a journey in time, but inside the dream also she is under various kinds of time, and she also comes to know, as I said, from Humpty Dumpty, that particular times of the day have names. But that is not really surprising also, because we do call like midday and midnight like that. So but 4 o'clock really doesn't really have any name, except that this has been given by Carol in this particular text. Very importantly, we have the idea of uh, you know the grammatical play of words. We don't see much of that, except that Humpty Dumpty says that everything has a temper, everything has a separate existence. So this idea of you using language, you cannot really use language because verbs, they are the proudest. In adjectives, you can do anything with them, but not verbs. They have got impenetrability. I quote, impenetrability. That is what Humpty Dumpty calls the verbs. The interesting part of the mythical element that we find in this particular text, obviously we have got a character of the unicorn out there, the lion and the unicorn, and they're fighting for the crown. But the crown will never be given to them. But they still fight for the crown, and when they are tired, they rest. But then they again start fighting. So the mythical element of something that begins from the real and goes into the into the zone of the surreal, may I say, or may I say that something that exists from the zone of the real and becomes larger than life. That is definitely there in the particular part where she is talking about the insects, the looking glass insects. The looking glass insects are very different and yet very similar to the real life insects. So, what are the looking glass insects? See, in the looking glass insects, we have got insects such as the gnat, the dragonfly, the rocking horsefly, and the bread and butterfly. So, the bread and butterfly, we talk about butterfly, but the way I said, the way food has been utilized, in this particular chapter, we see the way food is being thought of in another way. Okay, so we have bread and butterfly whose wings are actually made of bread and butter, and we have the snapdragon fly and the rocking horsefly and the gnat. Of course, the gnat who actually lets her beat them. I just go to the chapter where we have the looking glass insects, and we'll find out what these insects eat. The snapdragon fly is made of plum pudding, its wings of holly leaves, and its head is a raisin burning in brandy. And what does it live on? Frumenty and mince pie, and it makes its nest in a Christmas box. The butterfly is not there. The bread and butterfly, as I said, its body is a crust and its head is a lump of sugar. What does it live on? Weak tea with cream in it. There are numerous other insects, and there are the flowers that speak to her. The flowers have converse. So this world, obviously, it has its own rules. It has its own rules of battle as well. It has its own rules of peacemaking, and you have lots of battles out here. And we have the battle between Tweedledum and Tweedledee. We have the battle between Lion and the Unicorn, and we have the battle between the White Knight and the Red Knight. So we also have a battle of wits, where the Red Queen and the White Queen actually they kind of host a catechism class on mathematics, let's say, with Alice, who actually has to please them because she has to qualify in order to be a queen. So there are certain parts of the text that really set us thinking and make us feel that perhaps it is not really not really something that he was doing only for the children, because this is definitely something much more. So we have a very uh, subtle way that he speaks about the way he speaks about memory. He says memory works in both ways. So Alice is perplexed because how can you have memory of things that have not yet happened? So was Louis Perrault thinking of something like the feeling of deja vu that happens, that something has already gone on in your life and you have not realized it, and that is there. The importance of inventions, the importance of new things. Being a, he was a, he was an inventor, and he wanted things to be there. And so we have the white knight who invents all kind of things. Of course, those inventions actually are all, if I may say, faulty, or because they are the looking glass inventions. Maybe because of that, they do not really serve the purpose they are made for. So if a can hangs from his side, the lid is open, and anything that you keep inside the can is supposed to flow out. And the knight seems to be unaware of that. But when Alice tells, then he is made aware. Like that, lot of inventions are there, that are there, and these are all imaginations that exist there. And the idea of naming things, and names meaning, and meanings having names. So there is a, towards the end of it, there's a song that is supposed to have four names. So one song can have four names, and the knight tells her that, um, what are the four names? Well, there are the Haddock's Eyes. The song is called Haddock's Eyes. Just a minute. I'll just be there because I'm using a Kindle. So constantly, I have to flip through the pages to arrive at the text I have highlighted to be part of this lecture, because I think that it is very important to know the text of the nonsense literature and not just have a secondary reading of it, because unless and until one really takes a journey of the text, one is not able to feel nonsense literature at all. So, the name of the song, a song they're discussing, the name of the song is called Haddock's Eyes. Alice says, oh, that's the name of the song. The knight says, no, you don't understand. That's what the name is called. The name really is the aged man. Then I ought to have said that's what the song is called. No, you oughtn't. That's quite another thing. The song is called Ways and Means. But that's only what it's called. Well, what's the song then? I was coming to that. The song really is us sitting on a gate, and the tune's my own invention. So a particular song can have a name, can be called something, can be called, can really mean something. And there are four things. So Haddock's Eyes, the name of the song is Haddock's Eyes, and it's called The Aged Man, and the song is called Ways and Means, and also it's really known as a sitting on a gate. So that way, anything can be called anything, provided you think of calling it that. So if we deconstruct this novel, we arrive at multiple plays of ideas with memory, with language, with the idea of food, because abundant and rich food items are named throughout the text, and also how the items are elusive, how the items don't really appear. For example, Alice is not able to cut the cake because the time goes backwards, so she has to first hand over the pieces, and then the cake can be cut. And at the end of it, she never really gets to eat any pudding. She never really gets to eat anything at the feast when she becomes the queen. But we definitely have the idea of politics and power out here, because we see that Humpty Dumpty wants to be known as a person who has spoken to the queen, to the king. Humpty Dumpty wants to be known as a person who has spoken to the king, because the king was supposed to send all the king's horsemen and all the king's men, horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty together again. So the king had a conversation with Humpty that if Humpty broke into pieces, he would send his men. So that makes Humpty somebody special. Um, we also have we also have a very interesting part. The end of it, there's a poem. That poem is perfect. The end of the story, there's a poem. That poem is perfect, where we have, and his answer trickled through my head like water through a sieve. So exactly, this is the essence of Through the Looking Glass, the text where meanings move through your head like water through a sieve. Excuse me. And his answer trickles through my head like water through a sieve. I'm not reading that entire poem, but I feel that that kind of wraps up the entire idea of Through the Looking Glass. The forest of forgetfulness, the way she's unable to remember things, the way things never really work out in this particular place is, of course, not dystopic, but definitely different. That is what. So difference is appreciated out here. And before I forget, I must mention the way tautology is being used in the conversation between Tweedledum and Tweedledee. Tweedledum and Tweedledee are repetitions, of course, two people looking the same and speaking the same, except that the language, the syntactical structure is inverted, is subverted, and they want to mean the same thing, but they do not speak the same thing, and they have a particular word of their own. One of them says contrariwise, and the other one says know how. So that way they come to know that who is who. So if Tweedledum says, sorry, Tweedledee says, contrariwise, if it was so, it might be, and if it were so, it would be. But as it isn't, it ain't. That's logic. I was thinking, Alice said very politely, which is the best way out of this wood? It's getting so dark. Would you tell me, please? So whatever they do, but it isn't so. Know how. So know how, and contrary wise, so as if they have to oppose each other. They are the mirror images, as if they are they are not the mirror images, they are ditto. They call each other, they are ditto, they are similar, same with each other. I'm sorry, I made a mistake because I was speaking of the knight having the dream. No, the knight did not point out. Tweedledum and Tweedledee pointed out that the king was dreaming. So the characters and the movements are so disjunctive in a nonsensical text because they try to confuse you, and I was also confused. And so therein lies the success of the nonsensical text. And last but not the least, what is very important in this particular way of writing is his use of poems and language side by side, and prose side by side, because it not only cuts off the boredom, but also poems give you that freedom of expressing yourself in a better way. So 2 is a very important number. 2, 4, 6, 8, and 8, 8's 64. So that is kind of the pattern of the chessboard that is the basis of this particular novel. So there can be a lot of readings. As I said, there can be linguistic reading, there can be readings on the level of post-truth, there can be ecological readings, and every kind of reading is free because, as I said right at the beginning, that these are very celebrated minor literature, and these are the parts that require everyone to really inquire into the various segments that come through. I have also noticed one more thing, that the use of violence is there very much, and not only in action but also in speech, because the way the flowers are supposed to be delicate and tender things, but the way in the looking glass flowers, some of them are not really very sweet mouthed. They chide Alice in rough ways, and they make her feel bad. So she cannot just go away with a grin like the Cheshire cat, if you remember. But she has to stay on, and she has to find her way through. And then when her reverie ends, she is only happy to uh, be disconnected from that. But then she has actually achieved her objective of being the queen. But the moment she is the queen, the queen, the idea of the idea of the queen being more powerful than the king is there throughout, and how she is. I don't find. I'm not very sure, but I don't find that this should be taken as a very, you know, in a very positive way, because she is acting. Alice is acting in such a manner that to be the queen is her objective, and how she can achieve that power game that is there, and she is going through everything. She just wants to be the queen. She wants to be there, but then that is every little girl's dream as well. So maybe that theme was taken up in that manner, and when she is the queen, then her behavior changes a little bit, and when she tries to open the door, she is actually dominating. She's showing the traits of domination. She's upset because the door is not opening. So that, being that kind of upset, is different from the up from her being upset, in other encounters. So how power really corrupts, that is also very subtly placed by Carol somewhere. So Carol wanted to mean a lot of things and wanted us to decipher the meanings out of that. But it is very difficult thing that he has done. He has put in things. He has put in poetic techniques everywhere. There's, in the poems that he writes inside the text, you have very interesting. You have the idea of enjambment. Enjambment means when a line is cut off before its natural stopping time. So that way the meaning also hangs somewhere in mid-air. So just like, as I said, the grin of the Cheshire cat, the meaning hangs somewhere. And the moment you try to reach out to it, it just flies through the ceiling. So that is the essence of nonsense literature. And I think it is open to all kind of explanations, all kind of reading, psychoanalytic and linguistic, or even post-colonial, if I may say. If you want to have a reading of the way that people, they have their own territories, and how Alice actually invades their territory, and she is not taken in a very happy note. On a very happy note, she has to face opposition. She is not really liked by everybody. So, and how she, when she wants to be the queen, she's again kind of, in a way, she is bullied by the two existing queens, who really want her to, go through certain, as I said, certain questionnaire, so that she is able to prove her worth. So just like the real world, the world of the through the looking glass, the theme, the plot, all these things hint at just this very world, only in its subverted, reverted, inverted condition. And ultimately she has to return to this world. So what does it all boil down to? Well, it all boils down to one particular fact, which I feel is, nonsense literature is full of sense, and that sense is something that we should arrive at. We should try to arrive at, and we can do it only by reading the original text and not through secondary reading. As I said, secondary reading should always be secondary, because this is something we find a lack. We don't feel like sitting and reading a 19th century nonsense literature in this manner unless we have it on the syllabus. But these kind of texts can really de-stress a person and help that person to overcome a lot of psychological problems. I have been working on certain, as was said in my bio note, I have been working on the anti-suicide thing, and I think these kind of texts should be circulated for the therapeutic purposes, because once you're reading these kind of texts, you are not, you are not bothered about a lot of things. But even if you want to be serious about them, you just can't, because humor has been there, and that is something I have not spoken of much, because it is very obvious. So humor is there. If you laugh inside your stomach, you don't laugh out loud. Very subtle humor, very decent humor, not gibberish language, but nonsensical, not fantasy, but you know realistic fairy tale. These are the markers of Louis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass. Thank you. Hello, Gautam.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much because thanks would be the insignificant word because it's a really enthralling session. And like me, I think all the participants have enjoyed it with rapt attention.
Oh,
And
thank you.
definitely, it's
Thank you
very
so much.
engaging. Okay. So, ma'am, we have few questions. Could you take the questions?
Yes, yes. I would love to learn.
Okay, I'm taking the question. First one is on your screen. This is from Shudipta, if I'm wrong. Shudipta or Shudipta, whatever. I hope Shudipta this is. How are Alice's relationship with characters in
Yeah.
the Looking Glass? Shudipta, no? Okay. In the Looking Glass, like her relationship with Kitty.
Yes, yes, yes. A relationship with Kitty is, I find a lot of mothering instinct there. See, there are places. Actually, it starts with the mother cat taking care of the kittens. Okay, so she is watching that, and she is Dinner is the name of the cat, and we have got Kitty, and I have forgotten the name of the other cat. I'm so sorry. Let me just go to the beginning. Uh, Very common name of cats, but I'm a dog lover, so I keep forgetting the names of cats. Well, I'll tell you. Kitty and the other one is what is the name of the other cat? Anyway, relationship with Kitty is definitely something that like a mothering. She's telling Kitty what perhaps her mother in real life was telling her, and this definitely affects projects her relationships with all the other characters, because every character that she meets, she's extremely polite with them, and she tries to make those characters happy. She tries to please those characters, which is very important. This shows her outgoing nature, this shows her caring nature. She tries to put forth her views. She's from the real world. She doesn't belong to the world of the Looking Glass. She's a visitor there, that she knows, but she tries to be very friendly with them. When she meets characters, she learns a lot. For example, when she meets Tweedledum and Tweedledee, they are fighting over a new rattle, but the new rattle is actually an old broken rattle. Now when she can see that it's an old broken rattle, but she is polite enough to kind of drop the argument. So she continuously drops arguments because she is more like a caring individual and a very soft hearted individual, and she doesn't want to engage in hardcore debates, maybe because she's also very not sure of her own knowledge of things. She is still at a constantly learning phase. So with Kitty, she has this kind of, she knows that Kitty is being a bit disobedient, and she is chiding Kitty and telling her that you learn a lot of things. But with the other characters, she's more respectful. She wants to learn, and she doesn't really want to put forth her views or dominate them with her logic or with her way of seeing things. She is open to ideas. That's what. So it's not really exactly like a relationship with Kitty, but it's kind of a take on, take off from there. That's what it felt. I hope this
Okay,
satisfies.
we have to say another question. Definitely, ma'am. We have the another question from this participant, Shudipta Chatterjee. What is the function of the Red King in this story?
The Red King in the story is actually, I think the Red King is the character who I'll just read out this part where the Red King is projected as a poor character, poor king, these kind of things are there. Quite forgetting the king couldn't hear her. The king is very polite. The king immediately fell flat on his back and lay perfectly still. You know, the queen is more dominant. The king is, uh, you know, the king doesn't even have whiskers, and the queen says that you haven't got whiskers. The horror of that moment, I shall never, never forget. If you don't make a memorandum of it. So the king, all that he can do is make memorandums, okay, and write down things and take note of how many soldiers are going. So, very subordinate to the queen, and he is a picture of, he's a sorry picture, as I may say, but he's the one who actually is dreaming of Alice. And if he doesn't dream, If he doesn't dream, then Alice stops existing. Okay, see, he can, just a minute. It's I cannot tell you the page number because I'm using a Kindle edition, as I said. So I'll just read out that part. The Red King can snore, and his snoring is almost like roaring. So the Red King is there. He makes his presence felt, and he is the person who is actually dreaming of Alice. So we have the dream analogy out there. The dream within dream kind of a structure. The dream, when the dream stops. So a dream is a part of a dream. Okay, so that matrix of Freudian layers, we may read into that. That is there. And the Red King's purpose is definitely nothing but to be there. Some people just be there. So these kind of characters are created to show the other side of the coin. That's what I felt. The queen being more dominant, the queen taking up everything. The king is not really, not only here, even in Alice in Wonderland, I have seen that the queen is more dominant than the king. The king is to the, marginalized. The king is kind of very not very able to really take care of things. He is subordinated by the queen. He's like that. So that is there. His purpose is definitely to be there because you must have all the characters because the game of chess is going on. So you should have the white king, the white queen, the red king, the red queen. So the characters are all there, and some of them are very dominating, some of them are not. So this red king is not very dominant. Yes. Yes, Gautam.
Okay.
Next question.
Next, I have two questions from one participant. This is from Srija Shaha. Srija is asking, can you elaborate the theory of dream, interpretation of dream in through the looking glass?
And the other question?
Other question taking. This is the. Should you consider this text as popular literature?
Yes. Theory of dream. Yes. There are so many write-ups. You may read one of
Oh,
them.
there is another question. No, I will interrupt you over here. She has another question that I have missed out. This is basically this is the first question. Another with the second and third. Can you talk about post-structuralism in this text? Be very difficult and very elaborative answer. I don't know exactly how can you cover this over here.
I will definitely talk about post-structuralism in this text, and I'll definitely talk about dream allegory. I'm sorry, dream interpretation of the dream thing, but I will not talk out here because of the time limit, and these are very broad areas. And as I
Absolutely.
said right at the beginning, that minor literature has got a lot of possibilities, as Daluj and Guattari have pointed out. So I will answer her question. Give me the email ID, or you give my email ID to her, or to your email ID, I will send the answer. As you know, I'm going to send the paper also. So I will take up these topics out there. But the point that I'll speak right now is the idea of this text being considered popular literature, because we have a lot of materials everywhere written on this text being in the Freudian way, people have tried to analyze this text, the psychoanalytic and all those things are there. But as popular literature, this is very interesting. When we go by the definition of popular literature, one of the things that I have found out is that yes, it is popular literature. That is what first thing I would like to say. Popular literature is something that that does not really stick to the parameters of canonical literature, because it goes beyond that. It crosses the boundaries, it erases the boundaries, it plays with the techniques and the schematic diagram of the way we take up canonical literature. So I feel that yes, it can be called popular literature because of its the way it has its appeal, because people, anyone, and as I said in one or two sentences somewhere in my lecture, that anything that is anti-canonical also in turn becomes the center. So the center margin thing that we have, when the center and the margin, that dichotomy is kind of resolved. So the margin can also become the center. So like that, this literature became popular literature over the ages because of its appeal to people and because of the way it has dealt with the ideas of war and farcically the way it has dealt with the things, the farcical thing, the war being war is something that has to be done. Tweedledum and Tweedledee fight every day, so they just have bolsters and all that, and they have to be ready to have that fight. You can know a lot of poems. You can have a lot of pins on your body and the pins on the outside instead of the pins on the inside. So you can have the pins on your body as decorations, but pins are supposed to hold your clothes back. But here the pins are for decoration, much like the punk culture, if I may say, much later on. So popular literature also shows the way for the way for the literature that is not uh, kind of revered. So now if we take the contemporary definition of popular literature and we try to fit in through the looking glass into it, definitely it is there. And as I was saying, that this has very high potential as popular literature or even popular culture, because the way the ideas have been inverted, the way the ideas are being toyed around, that is something is done very. No one can bind down, no one can border down, no one can narrow down nonsense literature. That is very important. Anything can be done. You see, I'll tell you something. There is, as I said, it is, it is made up of, just a minute, it has a paragraph, sorry, it has a chapter with only one sentence. The penultimate chapter has only one sentence. Okay, that is very interesting. I'll just show you. I have it here. Queen Alice. Then Queen Alice is a big chapter, long chapter. And after Queen Alice, we have, I'm sorry, not a sentence, a very short paragraph. So it's shaking, as you see. I'm sorry, it's closed down. Just a minute. Yes. Can you see that? Shaking. So it's just a chapter here because she's in the stage of shaking and waking. It ends with waking. So these kind of techniques he was utilizing and these kind of chances he was taking. And he was taking a great risk because anybody could have, said that it's nonsense. And throughout, he reminds you that you are reading nonsense literature. At various places, Alice says, "Oh, it all seems nonsensical." What kind of nonsense we are talking? The word nonsense comes into the text to remind you that yes, it is nonsense literature, and yes, yet you are reading it. So popular literature, in that sense, a very different literature in that sense exists. And the other two questions I will answer on the mail, because if I go into the Freudian interpretation or if I go into the post-structuralist reading, these are very lengthy discussions that will take on time, a lot of time. So I don't think so we'll be able to go through it right now.
Well, absolutely fine, ma'am. It's not possible right now. It's very difficult for you
Right.
to describe all these things within very small span of time. I understand. So we'd like to get all these things next time in the paper, most probably.
Yes, yes. I
Yes,
we you are
definitely.
taking.
Though I
I should.
haven't made it. I haven't made it public though, but I will make it
Okay.
public soon. I haven't done it. Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
so because that will be a surprise, I thought that's why I didn't make it public.
Yes, yes,
So
yes, yes.
thank you very much,
No,
ma'am, for
but
giving a valuable
kindly give
time.
the email ID. You
Okay.
kindly forward my email ID to the participants. They might be having other questions. I would love to, this is something I would love to, because people are taking interest. And this is my second lecture on Through the Looking Glass. I have delivered on another platform, and I'm trying to go into the nooks and corners of
But
of the syllabus. This is a part of the syllabus of various universities.
yes.
Yes. So I'm trying
But
to go
ma'am,
into
one thing
the nooks
I
and
must
corners of the
mention over
adult
here
world.
that it's truly an engaging session. I think all the
Thank you.
participants would be very much agree with me because it's really very engaging session because the way you have delivered every aspect you have touched. So it's possible within 1 hour span if you do in detail, but you have tried your best and thank you for this reason, ma'am. Thanks a lot. So,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
okay. So, ma'am, I'm taking you off the screen right now.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
But be there, be there. A few words with
Okay,
you.
I am there.
So thank you very much, participants, for joining over here and joining this session, session number 26. And our 27th session is coming soon on 26th September. This session will take place, and it will take place on research methodology. So if you are really having interest in research, this session will be very helpful for you. I think that. So if you have that passion for research, then you have to tune in on 26th September, and on that day we're going to bring research methodology as the topic of the session, and the speaker will be Dr. Debu Prasad Bandyopadhyay. So still then, stay safe, stay protected, and I'm going to meet you on 26th September. Ta-da, bye-bye, good night.